Welcome back to the channel here today, guys, for all of the build-up ahead of Barca versus Valencia coming this Sunday. Today we're going to be talking about Hansi Flick's words ahead of the game, the potential lineup that we could see this weekend, but along with all of that, we've got big transfer news and contract news to discuss today because, of course, massive questions now over Ronald Araujo's situation. That release clause, it has now been revealed, and there are big questions about his commitment to the club. We're also going to be talking about Marcus Rashford, the latest developments on that potential move, because that one is still on and potentially on better terms for Barca. It is all on the way here today, guys. Get yourselves ready and let's do this. Because indeed, it's a big weekend for us. In La Liga, we haven't been there. Over the past few weeks, the run of form that we've been on in the league, it doesn't match what we've seen from Barca in the cup competitions. It simply does not. It's night and day at times. And even today, Hansi Flick was asked in his press conference, it's a different Barca. In La Liga, compared with the Champions League, it is not the same team. We're 7 points behind Real Madrid right now with 18 games to go in the league season. So plenty of time, but we have to start picking up points now. And even Flick said, he said, to be honest, it is a bit different. He said it does feel as though we miss maybe 5% of our level, maybe 10% of our level. He said, look, against Getafe, it was our fault that we didn't end the match with the 3 points. He said we didn't play well, we weren't focused. That's what we have to change. We have to be ready from the start of games, and this is what we want to see. So even Flick here admitting, there is a difference. There is a difference in the focus there compared with how we approach these knockout-style games, these cup competitions. We approach them with real intensity, ultimate concentration. In La Liga, we have allowed ourselves at times to be a little bit disjointed, a little bit distant in these games. You cannot do that anymore. It's a big game for us on Sunday, and we have to play well. Because I do have to be completely honest with you guys. As much as the midweek win against Benfica, it was incredible. There's no denying that there. It was an absolutely unthinkable comeback. It was absolutely extraordinary to watch and see it just play out before our eyes. But at the same time, there were a lot of question marks there. A game like that, even with the way that we turned it around, in the end, it's generated way more questions than it actually did answers here. There's still plenty that we're demanding of this Barcelona team, plenty that we want to see proven here, especially in league games. One of the interesting questions that Hansi Flick was asked before this game is, looking at somebody like Pau Victor, what's he going to do? What is he lacking there in terms of getting minutes in this team? Players like that who are on the fringes, what do they have to do? Now, Hansi Flick said, look, he's already come a long way. He said last season, don't forget, he was playing with the Barcelona B team, playing well, but he was at the B team level. Then he had a great pre-season, but he said it's not always easy to give everybody the minutes that they need. He said we can have a plan for them, but not every match, does that work out where we can follow that exact plan. He said the important thing, though, is that he does score goals, and he even does that in training as well there. So Flick, he does seem happy enough with Pau Victor, but those minutes aren't quite being able to be generated right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over these next few games, because as you can see right here, we've got an interesting run of games here. 3 successive home matches. That's really good for us. Valencia, first of all. Then you've got that game against Atalanta in the Champions League when, of course, we're through. We got effectively nothing to really play for in that game. So are we going to see more attention on this Sunday's game right here? Ultimate focus there with maybe more rotation in midweek in the Champions League. We haven't really seen any rotation up until now in that competition. And then we do complete there that trio of home matches against Alaves there, and there's an opportunity to just start a bit of a run going here, get that winning streak, that winning feeling going again, and particularly here against Valencia. It does seem as though it's a perfect moment for Barca, and at home against a team who, let's face it, they are struggling. Valencia's a tricky one because whenever you play them, you're wary of what they can do, the historic presence of the team. But in terms of what Valencia have done right here this season, they are a relegation battling team right now. They are 19th in the league. They've only won 3 times out of 20 in La Liga. And although in 2025 so far, their form has been a little bit improved, they have found a little bit of a higher level, but you would expect Barca here to come into this game, of course, as the big favourites, but we still have to be wary. We still have to bring our A game, especially given how we've actually performed against other relegation-threatened teams. So let that be a warning to us. We've got to arrive, we've got to play well, and we must beat Valencia. And it was interesting, actually, today that Flick was asked about Andreas Christensen, because this morning especially we've heard a lot of different rumours in the media about Christensen, because don't forget, he's got the medical green light, he is now officially back from his injury, he is fully recovered from that, but as of right now, he is yet to make his official return. He hasn't gotten out onto the field there to make his first official minutes back with the team, and Flick said today, I think he was very, very honest in his response about Christensen. He said he came from a long-term injury, he is back now, he is training well, but in the end, some players are ahead of him right now, so he has to work, but we know his quality when he's 100%, so we will see what happens there. So maybe we could expect to see Christensen maybe a few minutes in this game on Sunday. Certainly you'd expect to see him at some stage against Atalanta. You've got to get him back into the swing of things here to let's see what he can do in a Hansi Flick team. But unfortunately, guys, one player again that we will not be seeing here, it's Dani Olmo, because he, of course, missed the game against Benfica. Now, we were told by the club, very, very minor injury, very, very minor muscle discomfort there, nothing at all to worry about. He missed that game against Benfica, but he was expected to be back this weekend against Valencia. Now, that's not going to happen. And again, these are alarm bells to me. They're very, very concerning signs with Olmo, because the club are very, very concerned. And that is why they're really just delaying this return to make sure that he's all okay. They're very cautious with him because they know about his injury history. They know about his injury record. So they delayed his comeback here, not only until the next game, but the game after that. He will also apparently not play against Atalanta in midweek, and he will then return against Alaves next weekend, which then will have seen him miss around 2 weeks of action there. So Olmo, still not ready, still a few doubts surrounding him. It has been a difficult start to the year, of course, with all of the registration issues, then finally getting that over the line, and now he's out with an injury. So Barca won't be able to count on him this weekend. So in terms of our starting lineup, guys, what are we going to see compared with maybe looking at the lineup here that we used against Benfica? And that was, of course, very, very similar to what we saw against Getafe. Now, are we going to go 3 games in a row using something very, very similar? I would expect Flick again to go really, really strong here against Valencia. But do we need a few changes there? Do we need to just freshen things up a bit? You know, yesterday we spoke about Jules Koundé, about maybe some of the opposition that we faced really targeting that side of our team. Now, Koundé is somebody who seems to be crying out for some rest. So maybe they are looking at Hector Fort, somebody there to have an opportunity in the team to just give something. And I'm also wondering here, could Frenkie de Jong make his way into the starting lineup this weekend? He's come off the bench twice. Casado has been replaced quite early on in the past few games, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we do see Frenkie from the start against Valencia this weekend, guys. But apart from that, I wouldn't expect a great deal of change from Barca. But hey, how would you line up if you were in Hansi Flick's shoes? Because one player who is indeed, I'm sure, going to be in the starting lineup this weekend again, it is Ronald Araujo, and we must come on here to talk again about his contract situation, because yesterday we talked about the fact that he's renewed on paper until 2031, but we were very, very concerned about that release clause situation, because as we said, no public information was given by the club on that release clause. Usually they really publicise it, they really shout about the big release clause. Nothing was said. It was very secretive, and that wasn't a good sign. I think the alarm bells were already ringing. Something was going on there. Now, later on in the night, it did indeed come out. There were lots of reports there, and it's now being widely reported that this summer, strictly this summer, Araujo's release clause is 65 million euros. Now, that is a big, big statement there, and that is a huge topic for us, because in January of 2026 then that release clause will rise to 80 million, but like I say, this summer he will be effectively available if a club wants to sign him for 65 million. Now, what does this all mean? What does this tell us here? The fact that that release clause has been inserted, that's been agreed upon by the club, that's been put in there by Araujo, what does that tell us about this renewal? Now, obviously, he's asked for that clause. That's the first thing to state here, that he actually pushed and he wanted that lower release clause inserted into that deal, and that's because he still wants the option to leave the club. He did not want to be priced out of a future move. So that already tells me, okay, he's not really thinking long term then, is he? He's already thinking about the fact that maybe I might still leave the club. And well, many people are saying and screaming, really, well, why have Barca agreed to that? Why have they put a pretty modest €65 million release clause in that deal? Well, this is a very similar situation, and it's not really good to say, but it's very similar to Ousmane Dembele back in 2022, remember, whereby lots of rumours about his future, his contract was expiring, running down. We did renew him, but there was that lower clause. And of course, he left in the end for 50 million, but his agent took half of that. So that was a really disastrous deal for Barca. Let's hope here that we get the full 65 million, if indeed it comes down to that. Because Barca ultimately here were not in a position to have authority, unfortunately, with that contract running down. In January, of course, we got rumoured offers from Juve of 35 million, maybe 50 million euro absolute maximum. So not 65, but less than that. And of course, if we didn't let him go now, we wanted him for the rest of the season. We wanted to have a few more months here with Araujo in the squad. And then, of course, in the summer, if he didn't sign a renewal, he would have entered the last 12 months of that deal. And then his value's only going down. We wouldn't really have gotten a 65 million euro offer in the final year. I highly, highly doubt that would have happened here. So that is why Barca have agreed to this sort of renewal. They have actually bumped up Ronald Araujo's salary. He is going to be earning a lot more money now. It remains to be seen for how much longer, though, at the club. And as a result, he can, though, leave in the summer for 65 million. So like I say, it doesn't seem to me like Araujo is planning long term. He seems to have a lot of doubts about his place in this team. You know, that's what we keep hearing in the media here, that he's not really convinced he's going to play all the time, that he's going to be a starting player at centre-back when everybody is fit. I think he's quite troubled by Pau Cubarsí's emergence in this team, looking at the way that he's played. I think he's also troubled by Inigo Martinez's form earlier on in the season. But I think Araujo's job has to be, well, get back in the team, show us what you've got. You know, you are a top level centre-back. You've got to have the authority. You've got to have the confidence here to make yourself undroppable again. But I think even, you know, looking at the way, for instance, that he lifted the Super Cup trophy, you know, when we were back at home, when he was the captain there, when he lifted it in front of the home fans, even then I looked at him, I thought, he doesn't really look happy. You know, he doesn't really look content at the club anymore. So right here, I think there's still unrest. I think the next months are going to be absolutely key to Araujo. Does he feel part of this team? Does he want to stay at this club long term? Everything, I think, is on the table at this point. But right now, I feel as though this contract renewal actually, it's more about delaying his exit rather here than completely abandoning it. And I do have to say right here, guys, given the way we all feel about Araujo, given the fact that he has been such a fan favourite at the club, I think this whole situation, you know, and still now, it's still disappointing, and it still does hurt. However, guys, sticking here with the January transfer window, what now of Marcus Rashford? Is this deal going to happen? Is it not going to happen? What are the terms going to be? Because apparently the club really do want to make this happen. They would really love to sign Rashford on a loan deal, on a manageable loan deal in January, and the reason for that is they firmly believe that Hansi Flick could get the best out of him. That Hansi Flick could be the man to unlock the full potential of Marcus Rashford in the remainder of the season. And the player himself, he really does want to come too. But as I've spoken about before on the channel, it would cost, at Marcus Rashford's current salary, Barca €9 million to get him until the end of the season. From now until the end of the season, the wages would be 9 million, and that is big money. That is too much money for a simple loan deal. You know, it's not the kind of cash that we should be spending on a deal like that. But here's the thing, guys, because apparently now Barca would be willing to pay 3 out of those 9 million. They would be willing to pay 3, so a third of those wages towards the Rashford deal in order to make it happen. But of course the big question is, well, where's the rest coming from then? If Barca are only going to pay 3 of it, where's the rest of the 6? Well, ideally, Barca right now, they're holding out here. They are looking to drag this out really until the very end of the window. They would like Man United to help out. I mean, of course they do. We've seen this before from Barca. They would like Man United to contribute towards his wages. Now, you would say, well, why would United do that? If they're losing Rashford, if they're loaning him out, why would they pay us to take him? Well, they want him gone. Their new coach there. There's a lot going on at United. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Ruben Amorim, he wants Rashford gone. Now, if Man United really do want that problem out of their hands, well, then they can contribute towards those wages. And it's also very possible, by the way, that Rashford could help as well. He apparently would be willing to take a pay cut in order to join Barca. Such is his desire, such is his determination to make this happen. He would be willing to take that cut along with a potential contribution from United. So what about that then, guys? You know, we've spoken about 9 million. I wouldn't pay that. No chance at all. What about if we could agree that deal and only pay 3 million towards Rashford's wages for the remainder of the season? Is that a deal that you'd be more likely to take? Would you be more inclined to do that deal if those were the terms? Let me know. Would you accept that? Or would you still turn Marcus Rashford away? Please let me know, guys, all of your thoughts right here down in the comments below.